Why is the gender-neutral pronoun they and not it? It is used to refer to things, not people. So its use as a gender-neutral pronoun for people is considered dehumanizing. It is rude because in English it refers to inanimate objects. Edit. And animals. It implies the person isn't human, but rather just a thing. This isn't true of all languages with a neutral gender, but it's true of English. It is used for objects and animals, it's dehumanizing. While it usually refers to objects, it is used to refer to people all the time. You use it when not using a general pronoun but to describe the unnoun. Such as, who is it? Who is they doesn't make sense. However, you also can't say, who are it, that would be, who are they? So whoever you're talking about, there are only 3 good reasons to call a person it. You have no way of knowing who it is. They tell you. In our modern society, that is what they prefer to be called. You're talking to, or about, your cousin with hair that obscures their face and body. I always get confused because I never know if the person is talking about someone in particular or a group of people. Do you also find it confusing that we use you both when we're talking to a singular person or a group of people as well? This isn't any kind of charged question. By the way, I'm genuinely curious. And if you don't find that confusing, are you able to explain the difference? If English isn't your first language, and you learned it at school, I'm sure many times you asked, why is English like this? And the answer was, it just is. Because it developed that way naturally. This is the same thing. Long before gender neutrality was a common thing spoken about. In English, if you were talking about a person of unknown gender, you use they. I am a native speaker, and I use they automatically for an unknown gender. Whether single or plural, it just is how the language developed. It is interesting to wonder why things are the way they are. But especially in English, you can drive yourself crazy that way. It just is. Some people do use it, but it is normally used for non-human animals and objects. People typically don't like being compared to those things. It is referring to a thing, rather than a human life. I think it makes it seem like you are not talking about human. The only thing that throws me off about they is that I assume that to multiple ppl. Like they went to the beach. In my head I picture multiple ppl. I can whoa, it is not always plural, it's just where my head goes with they. There isn't really any grammatically non-arbitrary reason, but it conjures images of objects and animals and would come across as disrespectful and dehumanizing. English pronouns are strange, and I'd imagine to someone learning the language it would sound a lot more reasonable to call someone it than they, as the latter is typically invoking images of multiple people and follows grammatical rules associated with pluralization. They are, not they is. But that's the answer. In English, or at least American English, it is something generally reserved for objects, materials, and sometimes plants, bugs, pest animals depending on the person. Using it for a person is considered dehumanizing and disrespectful. That's why it has been historically used derogatorily towards transgender, non-binary, or merely gender non-confirming people. They doesn't hold the same negative connotation, both socially and historically. The pronoun it is typically used to refer to inanimate objects or things, and using it to refer to a person, especially when referring to their gender, can be considered dehumanizing and disrespectful. On the other hand, they is a gender-neutral pronoun that has been used for centuries as a singular pronoun to refer to a person when their gender is unknown, irrelevant, or when they don't identify with traditional gender categories. Using they acknowledges and respects a person's gender identity and avoids misgendering them. It's important to use the pronoun that a person prefers and to respect their gender identity. History. People have been saying they instead of he or she for a century or more. Language doesn't form out of a singular decision by a group of people deciding what makes the most sense. It just evolves as people use it. And they has been shorthand for he or she for a long time already. Using it for people is considered rude. But if you're unsure if they mean plural or singular, you can just ask. It's the same case for you. Bekwasse, it is dehumanizing. They is literally designed as a neutral identifier. Because we already use they as a gender-neutral singular pronoun. My 8th grade English teacher tried to convince me that they was for plural use only. But they were wrong because this sentence is grammatically correct. They has been used in English to refer to a person of a non-specific gender for hundreds of years. Why should it need to be changed? I want to piggyback with a side question. What is the formal way of addressing someone? Like saying Mr. Smith or Mrs. per megasecond Smith. The only language I know is English. However, I know enough about other languages to know that most other languages assign masculine or feminine genders to nouns. I've been told that because English does not assign genders, it is difficult for some people to learn. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing this is part of your confusion with this matter. In English, it usually refers to a thing, an inanimate object. When it is used to refer to a living thing, it's usually done as an insult. There are people that use the word it as a derogatory term when referring to LGBTQ. They refers to a person, people, they, them, theirs. In all honesty, if a person prefers particular pronouns, they will usually let it be known. If you're having a hard time following along, it's okay to say so. Just explain like you did here. You are obviously earnest in wanting to get this correct and not hurt anyone. That's what matters most. By the way, you rock for taking the time to find out about this. It is reserved for non-thinking things. You can call an ant it, but it gets a little weird if you start talking about a dog or cat as it. I mean, it's still okayish, but you sound like an asshole. But it is absolutely not okay to call a human being it.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.